Now for a tour of the Layers panel. I'm going to double-click the Adjustments panel to collapse it, double-click the Color panel to collapse it, and now you can see better what's going on with layers. The eye icon will hide or show an individual layer, so you can see I'm hiding or showing car. In each one of these layers, there's an effect applied, so the eye icon will hide or show the individual effect of drop shadow, or if you have multiple effects, it will hide or show them all at once. There's a new feature in PhotoshopCS6 where you can view by kind or search by name. Maybe I want to search for something that includes the letter C. In this case, background, clock, chicken, and car stayed showing. I'll delete that and the bottle layer shows back up. So this new search field will let you narrow down by specific effects, like the drop shadow that's applied to all of these. The background layer does not appear because there's no drop shadow applied to it. I'll go back to kind, and here you can sort by pixel layers, things that are adjustment layers, type layers only, the new vector or shape layers, and things that are smart objects. And you'll see the smart object icon in the layer thumbnail if something is a smart object. Let's take a look. If I click on the background layer, a very important note about all images that you open that are initial scans or flat images. Every image that hasn't had layers added to it will start with a locked background layer. And the background, if you're on the Move tool, cannot be moved. It's locked automatically. So if I wanted the ability to move this layer, I could simply double-click on it, and in this case I'll name it Space, and now it can be moved, revealing transparency. Transparency is always indicated by this checkerboard pattern. Instead of showing white, which is an actual color, checkerboard indicates that it's clear or invisible. I'll undo that twice or step backward so I have a locked background layer. And I'm going to show you smart objects or smart filters. If I go to my filter menu and choose Convert for Smart Filters, smart filters allow you to edit anything you apply under the filter menu later on. If you ran an effect on the background layer and hadn't converted it to a smart object or chosen Filter Convert for Smart Filters, that effect would be permanent. Let me show you. I'll click OK, and it's named this Layer 2, and I'll name it Space, just to indicate a proper name because I don't like to see Layer Copy 1, Layer Copy 2, or generic names. Especially if someone else might be opening my work, I want to make my names as useful as possible in the Layers panel. So I've named this Space, and this is the icon I was referring to. This small little page in the corner indicates that this is a smart object or a smart filter layer. They are in essence the same thing. So if I filter by smart objects or smart filter layers, only the Space layer shows up. And here's what I was referring to earlier. If I go to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian blur, a very popular effect for softening skin tone or creating artificial depth of field by blurring the background, I can dial this blur up and make the background look more and more out of focus. When I click OK, it's almost like a layer style. And in that case, I can hide it or show it to see a before and after. I'll zoom in with Control+ or Command+. Gaussian blur is not applied. Hit the eye icon, it is, so you can see how soft and out of focus that becomes. Hit the eye icon again, and it reappears. In fact, I can apply multiple filters. If I go to Filter, Render, and Lighting Effects, this is vastly improved in CS6, and with lighting effects, I can increase the intensity, I can play with all kinds of settings, but I'll simply click OK, because the point is to show you that you could have multiple filters run on a smart object layer and edit them later. If I don't like the lighting effect, I can double-click on it and maybe lower the intensity and click OK again. I'll hit Control-0 or Command-0 to fit in window, and ultimately I don't want these two effects, so I'll simply drag them to the trash can to delete them, and my space layer is unharmed. In fact, under the Layer menu, I can choose to flatten everything. And here's why you might do that. The Photoshop file without layers is roughly 8.5 megs. But with each of these layers stored in the file, it's 18 megabytes. Now, if I were to flatten the entire thing, that would mean I couldn't use my Move tool to click on the bottle and move that, or click on the car and move that. These pixels would be blended or merged with the background space layer, so they wouldn't be editable. However, if I select all 4 of these, click on the clock, shift-click on the car, and choose Layer, Merge Layers, these are all individual pieces, but they're moving as a unit now. So if I hide space, I can click and drag, and they're on one layer. I'll show the space layer, and I will resave this document. I'll do a Save As. I typically add End when I've completed to the end of the file name, and hit Save, and this warning says, would you like this document to be compatible with older versions of Photoshop? I typically will always click OK unless this document never leaves my machine and I'm the only one using Photoshop and I'm on CS6. You can actually save some file size by not maximizing compatibility. But since my images often end up in Illustrator or InDesign, they prefer having the backward compatibility turned on, so I always leave that setting on. But I have to get more tricky here. If I want to move the bottle now independently of the other pieces, I've used the lasso tool to make a selection. I'll go to the Move tool, and now I can click and drag and move the bottle by itself. But that is more cumbersome than having everything on its own layer. So I will do Edit, Step Backward a few times. Step Backward is my multiple undo command until I have 4 independent layers. You'll see your PSD or your layered file size jump up and down, and this number will vary depending on your operating system. The best thing to do for an accurate reading is once you've closed, check your file size. This constantly updates, but can vary greatly. Finally, we have layer opacity, how solid or opaque something is. Here, I can play with the car's opacity to make it more see-through. And we have layer blending modes. In fact, I love this on the PC. Once you've highlighted Dissolve, I could simply use my wheel on my mouse to scroll up or down. On the Mac, I can do that with a keyboard shortcut, but to gain some special effects, I really like how Color Dodge makes this look like the car is going into a black hole, which was my intent with this image. So now I could try several of the other layers and applying a layer effect to them, which is technically called a blending mode. So I could try Color Dodge or Color Burn and get the same effect on each of these pieces. I'll finish by saving my changes, and this is your tour of the Layers panel, turning visibility on or off, that the checkerboard indicates transparency, using layer blending modes, the new CS6 sort by or search by all of these attributes, and how you would indicate whether objects are to be combined into one layer or maintained as independent pieces. I hope you've enjoyed this tour of your Layers panel.